Hello, everybody. I'm Christine McNeil with the Cabinet for Economic Development. Thank you for joining us this morning. Angie Pollard will be our presenter today. This is our second webinar in the series with Eva Garland Consulting. This one's on identifying SBIR STTR opportunities and completing registrations. We will be taking questions through our group chat that's capable through the webinar. At the end, we will unmute everybody for questions at the end. All right, thank you, Angie.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining. And since this is, I wasn't at the first seminar, and you're going to hear from me for a couple more seminars, I believe, I figured I'll give you a short introduction for myself. I've started out in academia. I'm formally trained in microbiology, host pathogen interactions, got my PhD at Illinois State University, and I postdoced at University of Wisconsin in Madison. That was where I got my first grant. I got, a postdoc fellowship in RSA through NIH. And I honestly hated grant writing at that point. And so I left academia thinking that I don't want to have to write grants to be able to support a lab. I need to go into industry. And then I started working for a startup biotech company out of North Carolina State University in Raleigh, North Carolina. And lo and behold, grants are there too, is what I found out to my surprise. And so as I came in as a bench scientist working on a phase 1 funded project through NIH, I quickly began writing grants with the company to be able to get more money to support the R&D. And in my 5 years there, I moved from bench scientist to director of R&D and brought in about $8 million into the company through primarily NIH SBIR STTR grants, but also some NIH contracts and some foundation funding too. So during that course of my life, I actually learned to love writing grants and found it actually an intriguing area to ways to figure out how to make grants more competitive. And that's also where I met Eva Garland. And once I moved on from that small company, I started working for her and helping other small businesses achieve the same thing that we did at that company. So the topic of our conversation today is going to be about picking what are the right opportunities. So that's going to be the key to starting off, to have those competitive proposals, just making sure in the first place you're applying for the right ones. And then just a necessary evil in the operation of getting grants is completing registrations. They're very important. They're kind of an administrative task, but they can be very challenging and difficult at times, and it's best to get those done sooner than later. So that's why we're kind of having that at the beginning of the conversation about getting grants. All right, for some reason, I'm not advancing, Christine.
Okay, let's see.
My mouse is doing it. We're good. We'll use my mouse. So for the topics today, like I said, first we're going to break down the looking for grants into a few different topics. So first of all, how do you search them? Where do you find the grant opportunities? And then once you found some, how do you select the right one for your company? Then get an idea of how long does the process take from identifying that grant to actually getting that money in hand. And then to the registrations. What registrations do you need, depending on what solicitation you're going for? And then, as it always happens, something comes up and you get stuck. So how do you get through those times? And what to do? So first was, how do you search for grant opportunities? So I think this was covered in the first seminar, and that is all of your grant proposals, solicitations that you go after should focus on your priorities of your business. What are you wanting to accomplish? Where is your technology at? Where do you need to get to? So what is your strategy overall for your company? So you're starting with your business plan. And first you're gonna search for these grant opportunities that align with your business objectives that are within that business plan. And this is going to take on a bunch of different forms as to what needs to be done, when does it need to be done, how much is it going to cost. So having all that outlined and having an idea of how much the different steps, the timing of the different steps, and when they need to occur within your business plan. And then once you have that idea, you're also going to divide this into, you're going to have high priority projects. So generally you're going to have your first to market for your technology. And then you're also going to kind of have some lower hanging projects that, would be nice to get some funding in for those, maybe for your pipeline. But, you definitely probably have a project that floats to the top that you want to concentrate on first. So kind of keep this in mind as you're starting to look for your grant opportunities, because having this backdrop within in your mind as you're looking for grant opportunities will really help you sift through what is most appropriate. So this slide just provides you with a list of websites or engines that help you to search for opportunities. We're going to go through each of these separately on the next slides, but this gives you an idea of, grants.gov is going to be pretty much any grant out there. So we're not just talking SBIR, STTR, but they're all going to be within that grants.gov webpage. Same with the biz ops. This is also going to include a lot of contracts, but you will have the spillover of SBIR, STTRs here too. And then we have some more specific SBIR, STTR websites for looking for solicitations. So here's an example of grants.gov. Try not to get caught up in everything on the page here. Just trying to show you the steps. At the top here, you'll see enter a keyword. And so I put in antibiotic resistance for this one. So once you enter the keyword, you can set some filters. So you can go specifically looking through if you just want to look for ones at the CDC or other agencies that you're interested in. Eligibility, and there's a slew of different filters that you can set before you hit search. So then once you set your filters, if you want to, a lot of times I just let it bring up anything it wants to for me. Then you hit search and you'll get all your results pulled up as you see here in the table. And it'll have, of course, opportunity number, the title of it, what agency has it posted, and then the dates of when it was posted and when it's going to close. So you can click on each of these solicitations then in order to get more information about the solicitation, so you can determine if it could be appropriate, if you should add it to your list of ones to look into. So I'm clicking on one. You can see here, gives you an example of what it looks like then. There's a synopsis initially that's pulled up of the solicitation, and there's a few other tabs here where you might have the package. They'll have a link a lot of times to documents for the solicitation and whether there's been any amendments or not for that solicitation. But each of them will look like this, where they have the different dates associated with it, the title, and then how to get to the actual instructions for it and more information. So then biz ops, remember I said that this is kind of a larger picture of what's available out there. So it's going to have a lot of, the grants, of course, but then a lot of contracts where, these contracts might just be the government needs somebody to produce 10 mils of some reagent and make 10 mil aliquots and make 500 of those, or, something where it's more of a task-oriented contract. But it's still a good thing to go to just to kind of see what's out there and see if there's anything that's relevant for your company. So pretty much the same setup as grants.gov, where you're going to put in a search term here. You can pick an agency, you can pick a type of solicitation, and then once you hit search, you're going to get a similar page pulled up where it has what the opportunity is, the agency that has it, and when it was posted. So again, you can click on these to see more specific information about it. If I had the whole page up here, you could see where it would give you a synopsis, an overview of the opportunity, who's eligible, and then here on the side, there's always the documents that are associated with it. All right, and the next one, we're going to start getting into more of the SBIR, STTR. So actually, you can go to our website, and we have got links for all the SBIR, STTR programs. You can see them down here, and then we also have just the SBIR website too. But you can, Google and go directly to these sites, or you can always use our website to get there too. So SBIR, STTR has a general page that has all the funding opportunities. So you can see here at the top, you can go to funding, you look at open, future, closed. Closed are handy sometimes because you can see what they've funded in the past if they haven't opened them up yet. So it's good to get an idea of what they could be looking into, because that's a good way to engage program officers. But this is going to be SBIR, STTR for any SBIR, STTR program. And then the different agencies have their own websites for this. So the first one, this is DoD. And generally the DoD is, if they have a topic available, they'll have a quick link right here to click on it. As you can see here, this one, when I copied this, they were waiting to release their next one. So there'll be a link right here to be able to get to the topic list for them. this is the one for NIH. If you go to SBIR NIH.gov, off to the left here, they'll have a funding that you can kind of hover over, and this little menu will pop up. And then you can either click on the funding, it'll take you to all of them, or if you know exactly what you want to get to, when that menu pops up, you can click the one. So the omnibus is the general one for SBIR STTR, but they'll also have some targeted ones that you'll want to look at too. And then NSF's a little trickier because they generally they don't have apply now if something's not open at the time. They'll have kind of learn more button here, or coming soon, where you can click on this to get more information. And then once you click on whether it's apply now or it's get more information, then it will pull up a page like this. And it kind of takes you to the steps on how to apply. But if you go all the way down here to number 5, you can actually click here to review the solicitation. So this is how you can pull up all the nuances of who's eligible and what their instructions are for submission and what their topics are. And again, just wanting to tell you that the easiest place to get to all these really is probably our website, since we got all of them listed. Any agency that you think is applicable to your technology, and click on and look at their topic list and see what solicitations they have available at this time, or what they've had in the past, to get an idea of whether or not that your technology fits in line with their mission. So this table just is to give you an idea of how many solicitations that you can expect per agency. You can see DoD, DHHS, so Department of Health and Human Services, which is we generally refer to as NIH instead of the majority of it. And then Department of Energy and NSF have 2 to 3 a year. And all the other ones just have a single time that they have a solicitation available. So this goes back to the initial thing of, what do you need to do, how much is it going to cost, and the timing. So, having these dates in your head and knowing these to be able to formulate your strategy for when you're going to submit is really important. Of course, they don't accept late applications hardly ever. There has to be some kind of glitch in your submission for them to be able to do that. So deadlines, they stick to them. They're non-negotiable. So this is really the driver for kind of planning then when you're going to be preparing your applications. All right, so pretty much what, as you sit down and go through all those different websites, you're going to have this list in front of you. Hopefully it's a pretty long one of opportunities that you found that could be applicable to your technology and your company and the stage you're at, and what you need to do and the dollar amounts. But it's time to really go through each of those and review them to make get the list a little narrowed down, see which one is best for you to apply for, and then a couple more potentially. Oh, sorry. So as you're looking at that list, what you want to consider is whether or not this is going to go back to your business plan. Is it aligned with your technology and the purpose that is described within the solicitation? So does it fit? So if they're looking for a widget that does X, Y, and Z, is that what your widget does? And is it at the stage that it needs to be? Do you have proof of concept? Is it proof of feasibility? What are they looking for? How much development need to occur by the time you submit the proposal? And so there might be with some of these, especially with Department of Defense, I think that was discussed in the first seminar about technology readiness level. So this is something that DoD uses a lot to really draw a line at where you're at. If you completed certain studies, then you're at TRL 3. Well, they might not want to see you until TRL 5. So check some of those too to see if it's actually indicated within the solicitation at what you have to accomplish before applying. And are you eligible? Is your company a fit for what their description is for the ownership of the company? Whether or not some solicitations out there might, with the STTR, you have to have your like your university participating with you. So just making sure you're checking all the boxes for eligibility. For the budget restrictions, you have your business plan about how much you need to accomplish whatever part of your plan. will the budget allow for that? Are you going to have enough in direct costs? Will what you're allowed in indirects cover that? Will the total budget cover everything that you need? Are there any restrictions, such as, NSF for phase 1, you can't buy equipment? Well, if there's a piece of equipment that you really, really need to, do that study, then that, you're going to have to try to find another way to get that. So it's a supplemental funding to be able to get that equipment first before maybe applying for the NSF or showing that you're going to be able to get it a different way. And then deadline. I show you those dates for each year, when to expect the deadline for the solicitations. Do you have time? When did you find the solicitation? Do you have 2 weeks to get it done? That might not be possible. So getting an understanding of what else you have going on in the small business, because I know I've been there. I know you're doing a ton of things in addition to trying to figure out this grant world. So it doesn't always allow for you to pull proposals together quickly. So starting early and be able to kind of have this game plan laid out is key. And everything I talked about, where you find all this information, is in that solicitation. And it varies on how it's presented. So here's a sample of a DoD solicitation. The DoD is going to be a PDF. They're going to give you a long document to fish through to find all the information. But you can see here, the first page, you're generally going to have the dates for when they're going to start accepting applications and when the deadline is. And I'm only pulling out a couple little bits of this because this is a large document from them. But here's the cost values. This is their budget information. So it tells you how much you can ask for. In the DoD, if they tell you this is how much you can ask for, that's how much you ask for. There's no negotiations for them. And there'll be also, here is a little bit on what they're looking for. So the technology area for this solicitation, and then what's the objective? Like, what are they wanting to get from this? And the DoD is very clear generally on exactly what they want from their solicitations, whereas the NIH and SF are kind of more generalized on what they're looking for. They could have a lot of answers to a problem, whereas usually the DoD knows the exact answer they want for the problem. And here's an example of an NIH solicitation. So this is just, when you click on one with NIH, it's just going to be an online, a page describing what the solicitation is. So here's the funding opportunity, what type, whether it's a, phase 1, phase 2, and then if there's any related documents. Then posted date, when it's open, letter of intent. Some of these require it. Generally, SBIR, STTR through the NIH do not require it, but sometimes a targeted solicitation might. But some of the other institutes, as you'll see, do require letters of intent. So just be on the lookout for that, because that's definitely going to come before, of course, your due date. And then you're going to have ideas on the rest of the dates, like when is your application due? When are they going to review it? When am I going to find out about the money? When can my project start? Then here's the description that NIH has for funding opportunity. It's just going to describe the fact that it's going to, the way the program works, what they're looking to have applied to this solicitation. So just good information to read, just to make sure there's nothing that you feel is a red flag with your technology. And then budget. NIH, they have some word you didn't hear about the budget, but as you'll learn in a few webinars from now, that they're not like DoD. They're kind of open for negotiation here. They have some caps listed, and they have a second level of caps listed. There's actually a third level of caps. So, but still, making sure that your project is able to fit within these caps that they place within their solicitation. And then, of course, eligibility. The first seminar discussed SBIR versus STTR. So there's a reminder of that here in the solicitation, just to make sure you're applying for the right one and that you're eligible as a business too. All right, so once you've gone through these and you've narrowed it down, you've got your list of ones you can apply for, it's time to really outline how you're going to do this. Maybe you have a stack of 4 grants you want to apply for. How do you start actually getting proposals prepared and getting competitive proposals submitted? So you want to maximize your chance of success. So this is really going to come down to alignment with the solicitation. So making sure that what they're asking for is what you have to give them. And then, of course, you don't want to just be running after anything that looks like it aligns with your technology. You want it to align with your business priorities. So it's going to be a distraction if you're going after something that's really not going to, move you in the direction of commercialization, move you along that vertical path to get that technology commercialized. And that's going to come out and likely in your proposal too. They're going to see that you're not focused. So you're making sure whatever project you pick is within your business priorities. And as I mentioned earlier, your higher priority projects should be the first one that you're really working on these grants for. Try to get the funding for those to support that. And then you start worrying about your pipeline projects or kind of side projects to feed in. As I mentioned before, consider the timing of the submission dates and the amount of funding that's available. And when that money is going to come online is, very important too, because it might be enough money, but it's going to be 6 months too late. Or, you need to be able to make sure that aligns with everything. And then making sure that you're in line with the funding opportunity. A good way to do that is to talk to the program officer. So with each of these institutes, there's going to be someone connected to the topic area that you're interested in, whether it be NIH as an institute will have program officers, NSF will have topic area program officers, DoD has technical contacts. Getting on the phone with them can be a great way to find out if you are going after the right opportunity. And then also, if you're not, they're the people that are supposed to point you to the right direction. So if you think you're in line with the technology or the funding opportunity, talk to them about that and then bring up, is there anything else you should be looking into? And it's always helpful prior to this to send them a little blurb, like if you are thinking about what your proposal would look like, maybe some aims associated with it, give them a summary of your technology, what your project would look like, and ask for their feedback. And I mentioned trying to put in as many grants as possible. Of course, you don't want to spread yourself too thin, and you want to have competitive proposals going in. So that's going to be a limiting factor too. But the key to being able to have multiple shots on goals is knowing the funding opportunities are out there. When you do your search, you're going to be looking at a lot of different funding opportunities. You'll know the different deadlines. So to be able to lay those out in a strategy so that you're able to maybe do 2 or 3 a year or whatever you feel comfortable with, or potentially more. When you're looking at submitting to the same agency, such as NIH, this is more for just for NIH, you can put in 2 different proposals or 5 proposals to them. They don't have a limit, but it's good to target different study sections so you don't have one study section getting all your proposals. So if you have a technology that's applicable to, say treating bacteremia and treating a lung infection, and you could target 2 different study sections with that same technology and 2 different development plans, because they have study sections that are on just general anti-infectives, and they have study section that's on lung disorders. So you could go after both of them. So getting an idea of what the study sections, what topics they cover, will allow you to potentially then have multiple applications going into different study sections. And then also knowing the rules. So I just said NIH allows for as many applications as you want going in. NSF, you only get 1 per cycle. And NSF has 2 cycles per year, so that means 2 applications per year to NSF. They used to allow, I think it was 2 per cycle a couple of years ago, maybe almost 3 years ago now. So I guess they may come back to that. But at this point right now, it's only 1 per cycle per company for NSF. Submitting the similar proposal to different agencies. I mean, it is not a bad problem to have NIH say no and NSF say yes. So all you have to, because you already have one coming in, and it's especially not a bad problem to have NIH and NSF say yes to the same one. And then you'll just take the one that's offering more money. So it's not, you just have to usually check a box saying that you did submit a similar proposal to a different agency. And at the time of funding, then you just have to only accept one if you get both. And a lot of times, like if you're submitting to NSF, or I'm sorry, if you're submitting to USDA, a lot of times NSF would be interested in that. So kind of start to learn about the overlaps of the different agencies, and you'll be able to determine if you can submit the same application to more than one. And I was already touched on the last one as I was talking about the different study sections. So just if your technology is applicable to a lot of indications, that's how you can make multiple applications from the one technology. And the plan here is shown, just kind of gives you an idea of how, using these different application dates spread out, and you could even have, a couple going in for the NIH's is listed, and how then you've got money coming off at different times, and of course, just multiple shots on goal, so if one fails, another one may come through. And just a couple of insider tips related to the solicitations. As I mentioned, they don't always have the current ones posted, as they're kind of in between. So look at what's been posted before and see if maybe you're in line with that. And that's when you contact the program officer or technical point of contact and talk to them about your technology and see if you're still a fit, and if they have any information on what could be coming out, or if they think that you should be keeping your eye open for their solicitations. Because building this relationship with the program officer or the technical point of contact is really important. Then also another way to network is to go to conferences to meet program officers. So there's SBIR, STTR road shows, and there's also agency-specific conferences that you can go to. So just keep an eye out for those. And like I said, getting just face time in front of these people is really important to get information from them to help steer you down this path, and just for them to learn about your technology. All right, and then how long does the application process take? I think people are often surprised about how long it actually takes from getting started to when money can come. So in general, it's going to take about 1 to 2 months to get your company registered, your grant preparation and submission, which could overlap with your registration. Then you submit, and there's about 4 months for them to review it, make their funding decisions, and then finally the money comes along. In this preparation time, for hands-on for you, is probably about 100 hours over 2 to 3 months just to prepare and submit a proposal. So it definitely takes a lot of time, and that's why planning ahead is key to make sure, one, you're targeting the right solicitation, and two, you're getting competitive proposal pulled together. And one thing I kind of mentioned before is looking for these items like letters of intent or other pre-submission requirements that you might have to do before that proposal submission. So Donna's going to run through quickly some sample schedules. So here's DoD. You can see kind of the timeline that you're generally looking for. You're going to submit your application in February, and you're going to hear summer or fall for the start of the money. NIH, if you do the April 5th, you're looking at September 1st, start for the budget, and you're going to get notified around August. DOE is one of those that needs a letter of intent. So you can see how that falls in here in the line of dates for how everything kind of unfolds. NASA, you can see submission about the end of March and notified in June, and you start your budget in fall. And then NSF, so they have a June and December submission. So for the June, you're going to hear about it around November, December, and then the budget will start January 1st of the next year. And actually, it was just released yesterday, I believe, that NSF is now requiring you to turn in somewhat of a letter of intent, but they're calling it a project pitch, and it's 3 pages long. And that has to be submitted before the application, so application due dates are going to stand. So right now, for the current period, it's open for you to submit the project pitch starting yesterday when they released this. And then your application would be due June 13th. But you can submit this project pitch anywhere during that time, but of course you have to wait for them to come back to you and tell you whether or not they want the application. So this is a new thing they started this time. Then here's USDA, application due date of October 25th. Then you're gonna get notification in spring with budget starting July 1st. Right. So that kind of summarizes what you can expect for timeline. We're going to kind of switch gears now and go from the solicitations and understanding that to, your next step is registrations. Like once you find out what you want to apply for, what do you need to register? How do you need to register? Where do you need to register so your company is eligible? So this first slide is a list of the general registrations that are required for pretty much all the different agencies that are out there. So your Duns and Bradstreet number, I have a separate slide for each of these, but just kind of giving you an idea of there's about a 2-day turnaround. SAM, this is the big one. It's gonna take a long time sometimes. So we say allow up to 6 weeks. And this is why if you're thinking about submitting a grant, just start rolling. So the way these are listed is pretty much the order you have to do them. So get your DUNS, then you get SAM registration, grants.gov, Small Business Association, and then there's gonna be a few agency-specific registrations, potentially depending on what you're applying for. And just a warning, there are a lot of scam sites out there that will send you an email that looks like they're from SAM, and they'll say, oh, we'll help you register for X amount of dollars. All of these registrations are free. You do not need to pay anybody to help you register. It takes some time, yes, and there might be some frustration there, but if something looks like it's being sent from SAM and is requiring you to pay them, do not. Just SAM is free, DUNS is free, all this is free. So just be aware of those. So for DUNS number, you need to get this first of all. It usually takes about 1 business day for them to generate the DUNS number, and you just need to be able to have a tax ID number available to provide them with some contact information. This is a relatively quick one. The SAM one does take a lot longer for them just to go through the validation, and the validation steps are here. Required information, you'll need that DUNS, EIN, TIN, idea of your business structure, so different contact people. You need to have a checking account information to input into the system and the points of contact. So once you get activated within SAM, there's now a requirement that's been over about a year now that you have to send in a notarized letter. So once you go through this, they'll send you a little email saying you've been activated, but then you have to get this letter sent in. So you'll stay active for 30 days. And if you don't get that letter in within that 30-day period, then you'll become inactive. So keep this in mind. If you activate your account more than 30 days out from the submission date of your grant, then it'll become inactive if you don't get this letter in and have it approved. You need a SAM registration to be able to submit a proposal, and you also have to just go back through every year to be able to update the entity to make sure it remains active. And you'll also get emails from scam sites for that too, for them to keep your account active and redo your registration. Okay, grants.gov is fairly simple. Here's a process that shows you once your SAM is complete, you can go in, register for grants.gov. You're going to need an AOR account, Authorized Organizational Representative, to be able to submit the grant, and that's mentioned here. And you also have an eBiz account with them that allows you to kind of do the higher admin things like add an AOR to the account. But grants.gov is what, for many of the grants, you're actually submitting through grants.gov. So that's why you need this account. Oops, sorry. Small Business Association, this is just a quick thing where you enter in like what type of company you have, what's the ownership like, the size, and your DUNS number, and they're going to generate a registration document for you. And you just save that with the document name as it is, because that's what a lot of the systems will use, that document number as an ID to verify that you have the document. And then DoD has one registration, and that's just to be able to submit. So they've got this SBIR STTR web portal. All the ones for agency specific generally aren't big hoops to jump through. It's just adding in contact information and getting your company registered. But just another one to make sure you have done that you'll need for submission for DoD. For NIH, it can take longer than the other agency registration, so it's up to 2 weeks. For ERA Commons is their site you need to register for. And for this, you'll need a signing official, which is the one that actually submits the grant, and then you'll also need a PI account. These cannot be in the same account. They have to be separate accounts, but can be the same person. And if you're using a PI that already has an ERA Commons account, you can go in under the signing official and affiliate them with your company. And here's the website to be able to complete that registration. This one, they want to validate against your SAM and you're done, so that's why it takes a little bit longer for this one. The DOE has a registration in order to be able to do the submission. So it's the PAMs there. And then NASA for the submission has this electronic handbook that you have to register for. Oops. NSF has Fastlane, which might be changing names soon because it's kind of merging with another online submission thing. So this is like ERA Commons in a sense, where you need 2 accounts. You're going to have an authorized representative account and then a PI account. So the AOR is the one that's able to submit the grant. And the USDA actually doesn't require any additional registrations. All right, and the last thing to talk about is, what do you do if you get stuck? And it's hard to foresee who's going to get stuck with their registrations, because I don't know, it just depends on what day you try to register. I think sometimes it has nothing to do with life figure history. It's sometimes weird address things can cause an issue within registrations. If an address is written one way within DUNS, you write a different way in SAMs, that can cause issues. There's kind of little things like that generally are what will be a red flag for the systems. But don't worry, there's plenty of people to call. They all have some kind of help desk associated with them. I have the main ones here and then a few of the agencies listed too. Just the main thing is to call these people or email through their help desk and get some kind of paper trail that you've been trying to deal with this issue. We've had clients where it's come down to a submission date and there's been an issue where they can't submit, and then they got to submit a late application because they were trying to get through, with these registrations, and it was something on ERA Commons ends or Fastlane end. So just documentation to show that you're trying to get this done. And of course, if it's something more, if you're not taking care of it, they're not going to accept it. But if it's something on their end that's causing the glitch, it's good to have that documentation. So always call. Try to get to another level. If the normal help desk people can't answer your questions, just keep pushing on it. And of course, you have access to a program then that's also able to help you. So the scientific consultant that you're assigned to can answer registration questions, help with any issues that might arise, and they can also help you with speaking with the help desk. But end all be all, take home message for this is, if you're thinking about writing a grant, start your registrations now. Get your DUNS number, do your SAM, and then at least get through your SAM, and at that point you can kind of take a breath to start the other ones that you have to do. But really the DUNS and the SAM, checking those off your list are very important. But don't forget that these are all going to take some time. So if you get past those, you still have a few to get down to be able to register for whatever agency that you're going to register for. And in general, they won't accept applications if registrations are not complete. Like I said, there are some issues though, that's something on their end that they're having a glitch, then having that documentation is very important to be able to try to make your point to accept the late application. And if you already have registered in the past, dust off those login information, your password, check it out, make sure your registrations are up to date, your entity's up to date. If you're for grants.gov, make sure you have an assigned ARO role. Make sure everything's in line to be able to register when it's time, or to be able to submit when it's time. All right, so next steps. So you're gonna identify your solicitation, complete your registrations, and next is time to write your, or develop your research strategy and start writing. So that'll be the topic of the next webinar, which is on March 19th. And just quick thank you to all those involved in allowing us to give these webinars in order to be able to assist you guys. Great, and I think with that, you can unmute and take any questions, or if there's any questions from the live chat.
Yeah, right now there aren't any chat questions, but I will unmute people. So we do have one question that came in. Could you clarify whether and how we can submit the same proposal to NSF and USDA?
So you of course need to follow their instructions. Their format's going to differ in various ways, so make sure it at least adheres to their formatting and the sections they want. But the actual overall objective and idea of the proposal can be the exact same. And then for both of them, there's going to be somewhere within your submission process where it'll be like, check this box if this has been submitted to, if this same proposal has been submitted to another agency. And that's where you would say yes. So as long as you just prepare the proposal according to their instructions, make sure you check that box. And if it comes to the point where they're both get fundable scores, that's when you just need to talk to the program officers about that and, select which one is going to be, more beneficial timing wise, amount wise for your company.
All right, I'm going through and unmuting people, so you'll be able to.
All right, I can see if there's. Let me pull up the chat too.
Now we have another chat question. Could you clarify if the PI has an ERA Commons account through a university or another startup? Can that be affiliated with a new startup that is applying for SBIR?
Yes, they can. So if once you set up your accounts, then you'll have your signing official account, and I think your accounts administrator, if you have one of those accounts, you can too. But I would recommend using your signing official account through ERA Commons. And if you go into the admin role, and there's like an accounts, manage accounts, if you go to that tab and you search for that person, either by name or ERA Commons username, then they'll come up in your search, and then there'll be a choice there to affiliate them with your company. And so one account can have multiple affiliations.
All right, are there any more questions?
I see one that says, did you guys have trouble with any of the topic links on SBIR.gov recently? I can't say that I've tried any of those recently. I mean, if it's something that continues, I would definitely call the help desk. I don't know if anyone else has a comment on that. Right, for the phase 1 transition rate, are you referring to phase 1 getting phase 2? I see a phase 1 transition rate question mark for a comment from Colin. If you're referring to whether, like, how many phase 1 successes turn into phase 2 successes, definitely phase 2 is generally a higher success because you've already weeded out a lot of people from the phase 1. I think I've heard that it can be upwards of 50% success rate for phase 2s, and now I'm sure that's going to change if they reinstated the direct to phase 2, as that is going to be people coming in without a previous phase 1. And I guess as you guys I'm not sure if anyone started writing proposals and such, but of course the April 5th deadline is now officially a month away. So if you're trying to shoot for that one, everything should be in full steam now to prepare a proposal for that deadline for NIH NSF, with the new requirement to provide that 3-page document prior. If you're thinking about doing NSF, I would say send it in as soon as possible. There's instructions online for what should be in that 3-page document. It's pretty much, background on your company, your technology, what are your thoughts on your, what are you planning to do, what's your plan, what are your technical objectives, because I have a feeling whenever anything new gets put out like this, just like that notarized letter for SAM, it always kind of mucks up the system a little bit. So there's going to be people trying to get these in closer to the deadline, and likely we'll see some delay from the program officers as you get closer. So sooner the better for getting any of those into NSF.
All If there's no further questions, we'll wrap up. Thank you, Angie, for leading our webinar today. As she said, our next one will be March 19th. We will record these and put them on our kyinnovation.com website. If you missed SBIR 101, that link is there, so you can listen to that one. We'll provide this recording when it's ready, and we look forward to you guys joining us on the next one.